All right, so let's talk fuel prices.
Oh.
I mean, we all feel it, right?
Oh, yeah.
When you pull up to the pump and you got to fill up the tank and you're like, ugh, really?
It's like, is this liquid gold or what?
Yeah, exactly. But today we are going to, dive deeper into this.
Yes.
And we're going to look at fuel prices all across Canada. And we're going to do that with the help of a report from
Yes.
Dr. Kasik Bukan.
He's got this really cool energy business analytics newsletter on LinkedIn.
And it's really interesting stuff. We're talking 33 years of data he's crunched
Yeah, like tons of data.
just to figure out the patterns of, fuel prices all across the country.
Not just nationally, but like regionally too.
Yeah. And even sometime like city by city. So we're going to get really granular here.
We're going to look at the differences from coast to coast.
And, we're not just talking regular gasoline. We're talking premium gas. We're talking diesel. We're even talking home heating oil.
Right. All the different fuel types.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it is. So you're going to want to stick around for this one, folks, because we're going to find out, which region consistently has the lowest fuel prices.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe a little hint.
Maybe.
It might not be the one you think.
It's surprising for sure.
All right, so let's sort of rewind a little bit and set the stage.
Okay.
Did you know that back in the day, before the mid-1980s, the Canadian government, they actually controlled fuel prices?
It's wild, right? Like, can you imagine that?
It's kind of crazy to think about now.
Yeah. But since the mid-'80s, most of Canada has shifted to a market-driven system.
So we're talking the invisible hand.
Exactly. The forces of supply and demand, all that good stuff, have a lot more influence on what we end up paying at the pump.
Okay.
But there's a catch, right? There's always a catch. Some provinces decided to hold on to a little bit of that control.
So they wanted to still have a say.
Yeah. So we're talking Prince Edward Island, Newfoundland, and Labrador.
Oh.
Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and Quebec. They all still regulate fuel prices to some extent.
Oh, wow. So it's like this dance between, the free market and government regulation.
Exactly. They're both trying to lead, but who's really in charge?
That's a good question. All right, well, let's get down to it. What actually determines those numbers we see on the gas station sign?
All right, so think of it like a recipe, right?
Okay. I like this. I'm hungry.
Yeah, we're getting hungry just thinking about it. So first, you got your crude oil prices. That's like the base ingredient, the foundation of everything.
Oh, so that's the core. Okay.
Yeah, and then you got to add in the refinery margins. That's basically what those refineries are charging to take that crude oil and transform it into, the fuel we use in our cars.
Okay, so they got to make money too.
Exactly. Those refineries have bills to pay.
But it doesn't stop there, right?
Oh, no, we're just getting started.
There's more.
We got to layer in those retail margins. That's the gas station's cut,
So that's what the gas stations are adding on.
Exactly.
For us to buy it from them.
And then the big one, the one we can't forget about, taxes. We're talking federal, provincial, and sometimes even municipal. All those taxes get piled on top.
And that all gets factored into the price we see.
It all adds up, that's for sure.
Wow, it's not just the price of oil then. It's this whole system.
It's a whole web of interconnected factors.
And here's the interesting part, right?
That's where it gets good.
So Dr. Gubakan found that the gap between the highest and lowest fuel prices across Canada, it's been increasing over time.
Yeah, it's like a fuel price tug of war, and the rope keeps getting longer.
Wow, okay. And what's causing this widening gap?
Well, remember those taxes we talked about?
Uh-huh.
Different provinces have different tax structures, and sometimes those taxes are tied to what's called the rack price of gasoline. Think of it like the wholesale price before any markups or taxes. And this rack price, it's closely linked to the price of oil itself.
So if the oil price goes up, the rack price goes up.
Exactly.
And that means higher taxes in some places.
That's the gist of it.
It's like a domino effect.
It's a fuel price chain reaction. And what's cool is Dr. Gabakan has like a visual
Oh, I love visuals.
of like where the highest and lowest prices for regular gasoline have been
Oh, really?
over time.
Interesting. Okay.
So like for a long time, it was the Northern Territories.
Oh, okay.
Like Whitehorse and Yellowknife,
Yeah.
they were the ones paying the most.
Oh, wow.
But like in the last 10 years or so, it's been BC taking over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Vancouver and Victoria especially.
Well, yeah, those are pricey cities in general.
They are.
So it kind of makes sense.
Makes sense.
But wait a minute.
Yeah.
Didn't you say that the West Coast sometimes has like the lowest prices for regular gas?
Yeah, that's the thing.
So how can they be both?
Well, Western Canada has like a really big range of prices.
Oh, okay.
Like some areas, especially outside the big cities, have way lower prices.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's like a hidden gem.
It's like a fuel oasis.
Exactly.
All right, well, let's
Wow.
switch gears a little bit
Okay.
and talk about premium gas. Is it the same story?
Not really. Like
Yeah.
Western Canada still pops up with the lowest prices sometimes, but
Uh-huh.
it's the Atlantic provinces that usually have the lowest prices for premium.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And they've had that for a while now.
Hmm. Maybe they know something we don't.
Maybe.
All right, well, what about diesel and heating oil?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
So diesel is kind of like regular gas.
Okay.
The price gap is getting bigger over time,
Uh-huh.
but for heating oil, it looks like the Atlantic provinces are the clear winners for low prices.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, especially because they really need it in the winter.
Right, exactly.
So it makes sense they would have like a steady and affordable supply.
Okay, so the East Coast is the place to be
Seems like it.
if you want deals on premium gas or heating oil.
Yeah, if you're looking to save some money.
But let's go back to the North for a second.
Okay.
They consistently have those high prices, like across the board.
Yeah, for all fuel types.
What's up with that?
Remember the transportation costs we talked about?
Yeah. And the limited competition.
That's it.
Okay,
It costs a lot to get fuel up there,
right.
and there aren't as many gas stations competing for customers.
So they can kind of charge what they want?
Pretty much.
Wow, so where you live really affects the price you pay.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
It's like fuel geography.
It really is.
And this northern factor, it's been pretty consistent over time, huh?
Oh, yeah. From 1990 to 2011, the North had the highest prices for like everything.
Wow, that's a long time.
Regular gas, premium, diesel, you name it.
They were at the top of the fuel price pyramid.
They were.
It really shows you the challenges
Yeah,
of living in those remote areas.
for sure.
But I guess the bottom line is that
Yeah.
there's no easy answer when
No.
it comes to fuel prices
Oh,
in Canada.
it depends on so many things.
Yeah, oil prices,
Taxes.
local competition.
It's a whole mix.
So what's the takeaway here?
Well, now you know about these regional differences, so
Yeah.
you can make better decisions.
Like if you're planning a road trip.
Exactly.
Like,
Factor that in.
Yeah, think about where you're going and what you're going to pay.
Makes a big difference.
Yeah, and even if you're thinking about moving,
Yeah, too.
right, fuel costs are part of your budget,
Especially if you're thinking about moving to one of those higher priced areas.
like the North.
Yeah.
All right, so do your research, folks.
Informed.
Don't assume gas prices are the same everywhere.
Definitely not.
And speaking of research,
Yeah.
big shout out to Dr. Guy Bakken
He did an awesome job.
for analyzing all this data.
Yeah, his newsletter is amazing.
Energy Business Analytics on LinkedIn.
Check it out.
It's like a goldmine of information.
If you're interested in energy,
You're going to love it.
it really is. He's got a real talent for explaining complex stuff in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Okay,
Yeah.
so before we wrap up, I got to ask you,
Yeah.
now that you've seen these fuel price trends,
Mm-hmm.
how might this change your future travel plans?
Oh, that's interesting.
Or even like where you'd think about living?
Yeah, wow. I never really thought about it like that.
Right. It makes you think.
It does.
That's what we love about these deep dives.
Yeah, you learn so much.
Uncovering all those hidden patterns.
And it changes your perspective.
Totally. All right. Well, that's it for today, folks.
Thanks for listening.
Until next time, keep exploring
And keep learning.
and keep those gas tanks full.
Yeah, you never know when you'll need to hit the road.